Hello Internet, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today I'm going to be talking about the CIA. You know, the media right now is basically creating this dichotomy between, on one hand, Trump and, those he is affiliated with, and on the other hand, the intelligence community and the left and all those who voted for Hillary Clinton. And, basically it's funny, people are asking, like, who are you going to believe more, WikiLeaks or the intelligence community? Almost like it's supposed to be a no-brainer. Like, well, of course I trust the intelligence community. But I'm going to explain why that's fallacious. There's probably not a more untrustworthy organization in the entire world than the CIA. Basically this is an organization whose prime function is engaging in deception on a mass level, overthrowing governments, basically just lying. That's basically what they do. That's their job. It began in World War II. The Office of Strategic Services, OSS, morphed into the CIA, and it's been all downhill from there. Basically the CIA and the security state, all these agencies, this alphabet soup, they've basically taken over the government. We used to have a relatively small government in the United States, but now it's this sprawling behemoth, and there's really hardly any power for anyone to change it, even the president, which is, a lot of people are saying Trump's going to get assassinated because he's going against the CIA. You got Chuck Schumer on television openly threatening Trump for going against the intelligence community. But here's the raw deal, guys. Like, people have no idea. They have no idea what this agency has been involved with. And to say that we should just put blind trust in their allegations just because they have high confidence about this Russian hacking stuff, we should have zero confidence in what they're telling us. The weapons of mass destruction thing is only like the most recent. Not even the most recent. One of the more glaring examples from relatively recent history. That even the millennials, if they think really hard, can think back all the way back to 2001. But here we go. So, I'm reading this book, A Terrible Mistake. It's basically about the formation of the CIA and specifically its chemical weapons program. Basically, we have this whole toxic society that we're inundated in. All these consumer products are laced with all these chemicals that disrupt the endocrine system of the body, mess with the brain, calcify the pineal gland. And it was the CIA that made most of the chemicals. Whatever chemical we're talking about, some of the founding members of the CIA, Camp Dietrich, these were people executives from the chemical industry, from Dow Chemical, and they brought them in, and they were just looking at all the ways that they could use chemicals, as one of their tools, subversive tools of creating change in the world, forcing, governments or populations to change. One of the more interesting ones that this book focuses on is LSD, acid as it's known. Basically a psychedelic, synthetic psychedelic, basically gives people hallucinations of sorts. They were looking at it as a truth drug. They were looking at dispersing it via aerosol in the sky, via airplanes, to potentially disrupt enemy population, the enemy soldiers. They just dose them all with acid, and so they'd be tripping out by the time the U.S. forces got there. It's the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. They represent that quite entertainingly. I highly recommend that movie. There's a lot of truth in there. And the CIA, also represented in that movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats, is the psychic aspect, the paranormal aspect. All right. While out here in the surface world of consensus reality, where scientists say that there's no such thing as psychic powers, there's no such thing as an all-connecting energy field that allows instantaneous communication. There's no such thing, and it's impossible for things like that to happen. Well, the CIA knows better, because they've been playing around with remote viewing, aka psychic powers, you viewing things from afar through your mind. They've been doing that. They've been basically collecting all these people who are sensitive to psychic energy, and basically, they've trained people how to be professional kind of military psychics. Big shout out to Netflix right now. Huge shout out to Netflix right now for producing amazing shows on, they've been just doing great work. I highly recommend one series called Stranger Things. Absolutely fantastic. The OA is another one, not as much in this line, but more in the psychic and remote viewing stuff. But Stranger Things basically is a fictional show, but they represent in that show, without giving too much away, the MK Ultra program, which is basically the CIA's mind control program. Yes, mind control. They used hallucinogenic drugs like LSD combined with a lot of other things to basically mind control people. And another aspect of that, and this was also kind of represented in the show on Netflix, Stranger Things, is ritual child abuse. Is basically the CIA has been involved in the trafficking of human beings, of slavery. Basically, they kidnap children and they induct them into this program, and they basically, it's really awful, guys. But again, we gotta put on our big boy cap and our big boy pants, and put on our brass balls and charge forth into the darkness with a laser sword and cut these demons in half. That's what's up. Is basically what they do. They inflict severe trauma on a young child, usually about 3 years old, often by rape. Basically, this is, when people talk about this stuff being called Pizzagate these days, the revelations into high-level people who are very powerful, engaging in ritual satanic abuse of children, of pedophilia. It's not just about, they're just sick and perverted. No, there's so much more going on. You guys got to understand the whole picture if you're going to have any chance of understanding what's really going on. Okay, so they rape these children when they're 3 years old. They cause severe trauma. They torture them. They often, they reinforce it. They do it when they're 6 years old, and they basically reinforce the trauma. And the thing is, those early years, most humans don't actually remember when they're adults. But those years are extremely important when it comes to setting the foundation, setting the pattern, psychically, energetically, psychologically, that they will then build on as they develop into a full-fledged human being. So by inflicting this severe trauma when they're young, what happens is that the psyche fractures, okay? Split personality, okay? Multiple personality disorder is a result of early age trauma. Basically, it's how the mind goes on and lives a life without constantly returning to the severe trauma that it experienced. Is it covers it up, it forgets it, and so it creates an alter personality. There's one personality that knows the true memory of the trauma, and there's another personality that just blocks it out, that forgets it, and continues on with life in order to just be a normal human being. And in a small sense, we all experience this. The trauma that we experience when we're young, it doesn't have to be sexual trauma. It can just be emotional trauma, like ridicule, embarrassment, parents, beating their children, stuff like that. All these different traumas, they last into adulthood. And, people who have borderline personality, multi-personality disorder, is because of these traumas when they're young. And so what the CIA has done and does, and they're not the first to do this, okay? This goes back a long, long time. Before it was the CIA, it was the Catholic Church, all right, who were doing this. And before that, it was the Babylonian freaking Talmudic priests of these ancient cults dedicated to all these various deities. But suffice to say that it is the science and art, a dark art, a black science, of fracturing the human personality in order to mind control a person, okay? Because what happens is, and actually this is the crazy thing, is how much actually gets revealed through fiction, through movies, that people don't even realize, okay? What they do, for example, let's say this kid is getting ritually abused, sexually, abused and tortured when they're very young. And when that happens, when they're very young, maybe there's a man standing there in a rabbit costume or something, or they sacrifice a rabbit in this satanic ritual. And later on in life, the normal version of that person doesn't, recall that. But later on in life, they can activate that alter personality by like using a code word, a trigger, like rabbit. They say the word rabbit, and the person all of a sudden snaps back into that alter personality, and they can get them in basically a hypnotic state, and they can get them to fulfill commands. One way the mind control works out in their favor, and why, this is not just some idle thing that they're doing, is when they mind control a person, they can get them to do anything, especially they can train them to assassinate, basically like in Zoolander. All right, so, what's interesting is recently there was a shooter at Fort Lauderdale Airport in Florida, and I guess he was a veteran, and he just, he got off the plane, got his sidearm out of his bag that was baggage claim, and he just started firing at people, like cold and collected, just started firing at people. And the people in the airport reported multiple shooters, at least 3 shooters just firing. And after this guy's done shooting, the one that they caught, he just he lays down on the ground, sets down his gun, and when they ask him about it, he doesn't even know. It's same with the guy who assassinated Bobby Kennedy, he didn't even remember doing it. And this is the thing, the Fort Lauderdale guy, he said straight up to people, the people who are interviewing him, I have been programmed by some intelligence agency. I've been programmed by the CIA. He even went to the FBI before the shooting, months before the shooting, and said, I am being mind controlled. They're showing me ISIS videos. I hear voices in my head. This is another technology they have. They've even been using this for, comical advertising purposes. They can put a voice inside your head. They got so much weird technology. They got a heart attack gun. It's like a dart, or even like a laser beam of sorts that can basically induce a heart attack. So all sorts of crazy stuff, all sorts of crazy ways to kill people. And it's just interesting that now you have this Fort Lauderdale shooter, and he's openly saying, I was programmed by the CIA. This goes back, if you want to see a video series I did on the Orlando shooter, I go into that in a little more depth. Feel free to check out those videos. So that's it. They can mind control these people and train them to kill. Pretty crazy. So Zoolander, all right? How many people have seen Zoolander and, they think it's just a funny fictional movie, not realizing this movie is literally disclosing CIA mind control, especially within the celebrity world. He's a male model. And this is really, there's a documentary called An Open Secret. It goes into how just widespread pedophilia is in Hollywood, and this is just it's a satanic network that spans Hollywood, the CIA, it's all over the place. All right, it's in London, it's in Rome, the Vatican, the Catholic Church. This is all part of a satanic network. Okay, and people want to disbelieve because it sounds too incredulous to them, this is why people can't understand it, because the magnitude of the conspiracy and the level of evil that these people are engaged in is so far beyond the pale that the average normal good human being can't even fathom it. Okay, so CIA is involved in ritual child abuse. Basically and we're not even going to get into the surface level stuff, overthrowing all the foreign governments of the world, creating the whole clusterfuck in the Middle East, starting with overthrowing the sovereign democratic elected leader of Iran, Mossadegh, all right, to South America and Central America, overthrowing Allende in Chile. Pinochet brought in some good economic reforms, but, apart from that, it's just brutal dictatorships that the CIA has supported. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people killed as a result of this agency's actions. Again, this is the one that they're asking us to just trust and put our blind faith in. All right, so we're not going to get into all that. Everybody knows about that stuff. Well, everybody doesn't know about it, but a lot of people know about it. But there's another thing that a lot of people don't know about, which is the CIA has been smuggling drugs into the United States for decades. It began back in Vietnam, okay? The Golden Triangle in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and China. Basically, this jungle area that was like the heroin production center of the world. American Gangster, they depict that. He goes to the Golden Triangle and hooks up a prime supply for, the blue magic, the super pure heroin. And now that the heroin capital of the world has shifted from, the Golden Triangle to Afghanistan, in both cases, it's the United States military occupying that land. I'm sure that's just a coincidence, right? But so basically, before the Vietnam War, there really wasn't this mass drug problem in America. It just wasn't a thing. But what happened is you got all these soldiers going off to Vietnam. They're totally severely traumatized by what they've seen in the theater of war out there. Totally pointless war. And so they started using heroin out there, a lot of hard drugs to cope with the trauma. And what happens, the war ends, and all of these junkies, who like soldiers, are now came back to every town in the United States, basically. And so now we had heroin addicts in every single state and every single village and town and city in the United States. And this is a major part of how this satanic network stays connected, is basically a lot of these people involved in the satanic cult, they're junkies, they're heroin addicts, and they're just all around degenerates. I'm not saying that because a person is addicted to opiates that makes them a degenerate, but when they start stealing from people and committing serious crimes to feed their addiction, yeah, you're a fucking degenerate. And I've dealt with a lot of people like that, and I'm sorry. I will help anyone who's ready to help themselves, but until a person reaches that point, there's nothing you can do, my brothers and sisters. Nothing you can do. So don't ever waste your time trying to help somebody who won't help themselves. And that, brings us back to where we are in the United States, is basically there's people who are so locked into their delusional worldview. Basically these liberals who have no sense of nationalism whatsoever are all of a sudden up in a furor over Russia, and let's back the CIA. I mean, it's just so insane, the cognitive dissonance, the almost schizophrenic mentality that the American population is in right now. And that's why I'm making these videos, to hopefully some of you out there bring some information to and help things make a little more sense to you. So we have the CIA that's basically involved in ritual child abuse, mind control, drug smuggling. All right, ask George Bush Sr. What he knows about it. All right. Speaking of George Bush Sr., who was a former director of the CIA, pretty much the last president who tried to challenge the intelligence community, like Trump is now doing, was John F. Kennedy. Okay, he said he was going to smash the CIA into 1,000 pieces. He was so mad after the Bay of Pigs disaster. Okay, they tried to invade Cuba. It was totally botched because Alan Dulles, who is the director of the CIA, basically called off the air support, and so the invasion just got totally wrecked by Castro's forces. And so Kennedy was pissed. He was like, fuck the CIA, I'm gonna smash it into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind. And of course, he didn't make it very long. In November 1963, he was shot in the head multiple times in a motorcade in Dallas. And without getting into all that, it's a very suspicious set of circumstances. And pretty much since Kennedy, we've had every single presidency has been totally compliant with the CIA. No one challenges the deep state. No one challenges the CIA because, basically, I'm sure they've got some special camera angle where they show the grassy knoll and they show what happens to presidents who go against the CIA. And the reason that I have faith that Trump is not going to suffer the same fate as John F. Kennedy is because he's got his own faction, even within the intelligence community, within the high-level echelons of the military, that are totally sick of this satanic network of fucking pedophiles, this evil bullshit that's happening all over the place, just rampant corruption. It's too much. It's the critical mass. It's not just anarchists in the street. It's not just protest. It's not just us down here on the ground. It's literally this revolution is taking place inside the Pentagon, okay, inside of Washington, D.C. It's all over the place. And, again, I may not agree with all of the super hardcore military guys that Trump is appointing, but I do believe that they all share a common characteristic that, even if they're violent souls, they are at least have a basic moral compass and are decent human beings in the sense that they think that satanic pedophilia is disgusting, abhorrent, and should be absolutely vanquished and obliterated wherever we can find it. So Here it is. People want to ask you to trust the CIA. I say, fuck the CIA, all right? These people are scum, and they think they can rule the world. They're basically the mercenary for hire for the elite banking cabal, and we shouldn't trust them. We shouldn't give them one single modicum of trust, all right? They have not earned it, and they won't get it from me. And I hope that you don't give them your trust either. So that's it. Do not trust the CIA. Trump is going against them, and we're going to win because we have the force of God on our side. We have the planet, we have the plants and the animals. The whole universe is lined up in energetic. We've got our grand counter conspiracy going on, and it has the full weight of the cosmos. And I'm happy to be participating in that with you all. So cheers, wholeness and balance vibrations, and I'll see you next time. Yeah!